English writer Aldous Huxley once said that there are things known and there are things unknown, and in between are the doors of perception. An example of this would be a book without an ending. Without an ending, it's no more than a mere cliffhanger, leaving the audience to guess what happens next. Out of all of the books that exist in this world, the most complicated book of them all isn't a book. It's the story of your life, and many end in satisfaction. But some biographies are cut short, and without an ending, it becomes no more than a mystery. Mysteries like this next story.
June 5th, 1999. The world would make way for Allison Watterson. She would be born in Portland, Oregon, to a mother, Misty, and her father, Alan. She would enter this world, learn about life, and receive her education in the Hillsborough County area, in which she would graduate from Hillsborough High in the year of 2017. Allison is described as a person who only saw the good in people. The people close to her would testify that even if someone was being rude or mean towards her, she didn't see it. The huge heart of hers would even extend towards animals. She loved them. In fact, growing up as a little girl, she had dreams of being a vet. With these attributes, she managed to accumulate a lot of friends. And if you ever needed a shoulder to lean on, she was right there for you. Allison enjoyed hiking, swimming, exploring the beach. If nature was involved, she was right there. Outside of normal activities of girls her age, such as doing makeup and hanging out with friends, she had a very special friend, a close friend. And that friend was her mother, who she would often refer to as her best friend. In the year of 2019, Allison would be 20 years old. By then, she's described as a free spirit. She hadn't started college, not yet. She was taking a little time to find herself, and her family was okay with it. After all, she did plan on going, just not at that moment. Around this time, Allison would have a boyfriend, a guy who goes by the name of Benjamin Garland. Long story short, Benjamin Garland was the exact opposite of Allison. Benjamin has had run-ins with the law, and at that current time, he was hooked on drugs. But Allison, having the big heart that she had, she was able to see through those negative details and find the person inside. Benjamin would be an on and off again boyfriend. They would frequently break up and get back together. But around December 12th of 2019, Allison had had enough. She decided that Ben needed to move forward with his life. She would tell her then boyfriend that he needed to get help, kick the drugs, and better himself for his own future, while she worked on her own. This was a relationship that was never approved by the parents. They always knew this guy was off and that he needed to get help, but again, Allison was a person who always wanted to help. But at this point, she had reached her breaking point. This breakup was hard for Allison at first, and she would mope around for a few days. But by December 20th of 2019, she would be feeling a little better. She would leave her house that day and she would tell her mom that she was going to hang out with friends. Time would elapse and evening time would come, but Allison wasn't still home. So her mother would decide to text her and ask her about her whereabouts. That's when Allison would decide to come clean and let her mother know that she wasn't with her friends, but she was hanging out with Benjamin. She let her know that she's gonna hang out with him and she'll be back the next day. But that would be the last time she ever contacted her mother. A couple of days would pass and the date is now December 23rd of 2019. The family still hasn't heard from Allison, but it was about to get a lot worse. The news they would receive about their daughter would be tragic. Allison was missing. Upon the discovery that Allison was missing, the police would immediately begin searching for her. And the first priority in this case would be talking to close family members and friends. And while investigating the disappearance of Allison, they would find some unsavory news. Allison was due to return home on December 22nd of 2019. However, some odd events would occur on that day. At 5:35 a.m., Alyssa Watterson and her boyfriend Benjamin Garland would show up at a fire station. The two would claim that they had been robbed that morning on 15th Street, which is roughly about 2 blocks away from the fire station itself. The fire officials would then ask them if they wanted to call the police. In any normal circumstance, that would be the first question, but they would actually decline. The reason for them declining this request would be that Benjamin Garland actually had a warrant out for his arrest, so he didn't want to deal with law enforcement. But despite their wishes, the firemen called the police anyways, and the police would show up. The police show up and they interview both Allison and Benjamin, but they decline to press charges, and Benjamin declines to ID himself on the scene. That way the police can't pick up on his warrants. At this point, there's nothing the authorities can do, so they leave the fire station, and Benjamin calls his mother and asks his mother to pick him and Allison up from the fire station, in which she does. She would pick them up, but then Benjamin would ask his mom to drop them off at a local grocery store. She drops them off, and then shortly after leaving, Benjamin would steal a truck from the parking lot. Whatever transpired in between stealing the truck and joyriding is unknown, but by 9 a.m. of that same morning, they would be in the neighborhood knocking on doors. They would be in the area of North Plains, Oregon, off of Old Pumpkin Ridge Road. They would knock on a door and ask a woman to use the phone. They said that their car had broke down and they needed to call a ride, so the woman lets them in. Upon entering the home, the woman would make note that Allison seemed disheveled. She was dirty and her hair was muddy. Benjamin Garland would then use the phone to call his grandmother and ask his grandmother to pick them up, and she agrees. But by the time the grandmother gets there, they're gone. Another neighbor would testify that he saw both of them later on that day walking towards a wooded area. This would be the last known sighting of Allison Watterson. December 23rd, 2019. Another neighbor in the same area in which they were knocking on doors would come outside. The neighbor was just up that morning preparing to do his daily duties, but before pulling out of his driveway, he would notice that Benjamin Garland was sleeping in the bed of his truck. He then questioned Ben and asked him why is he sleeping in his truck bed, and Ben said that he was out all night, it was raining, and he was just trying to shelter himself from the weather. So the guy then offers to take Benjamin home, in which he does. He takes Benjamin home, but there's one problem with this story. Allison isn't with him, and Benjamin's parents notice this, so they ask him, "Where's Allison?" Benjamin then tells his parents that they were out hiking and they got separated. So the parents decide to hop in their car and go back to Old Pumpkin Ridge Road. That way they can search for Allison. But upon arriving, she's nowhere to be found. Benjamin's parents testify that they looked for her all day, but they didn't alert anyone that she was missing until that night. Not even Allison's parents. By the time Benjamin's parents reported Allison missing on the evening of December 23rd of 2019, it had been over 30 hours since her last sighting. And this would make the investigation that much harder. Tuesday, December 24th, 2019. A search party would be formed to go out and search for Allison. They would go out to the area in which she was last sighted in, and they would bring the dogs. The dogs would catch her scent. However, the scent would fade, and they would be back at square one. Time would elapse, and there's still no sign of Allison.
It is now day 4 of the search for a 20-year-old named Allison Watterson from Hillsborough. Tonight, deputies are revealing a new timeline of events as well. They say Watterson was last seen with her boyfriend, Benjamin Garland, Sunday morning, just before noon, by a homeowner in that area. Then a different neighbor who spoke with Fox 12 said they found Garland in that neighbor's truck Monday morning. At around 5:30 Monday evening, Garland's father reported Watterson missing. That night is when deputies found Garland and a truck they connected to him that was later determined to be stolen. So deputies say they're now concerned because there is a 30-hour delay as to when Allison was last seen and when she was reported missing.
Misty Watterson said Friday, December 20th was the last time she saw her daughter.
She said, "Mom, I'm gonna go out with some friends." Awesome. Have fun. Love you.
The following Sunday, Allison told her mom she was with her boyfriend, Benjamin Garland, and said she'd be home soon.
Yeah, Mom, I'll be home tonight. I love you so much. That was the last I've heard from her.
She and Allison's father have printed thousands of flyers and say they've been posted in the surrounding counties, along the Oregon coast, and even in California along I-5.
Call it in anonymously. You don't have to say your name. They don't have to know who you are.
They're pleading with anyone who knows where Allison is to help bring her home.
Why would you not say something? How could you not? How could you not?
Days turn into weeks, and weeks turn into months. During the process of searching for Allison, Benjamin Garland would be arrested, but on unrelated charges. He would be arrested in regards to the stolen truck and a few other charges. While he's in jail, Benjamin Garland would reach out to the mother of Allison. He would call Misty. He would give her almost the exact story that he gave his parents. Almost, because this time he would add a few more details. He told the mother that on the day that she disappeared, they were out hiking, but while they were hiking, they heard dogs. He says that when Allison heard the dogs, she immediately grew frightened and she took off running. She then runs away, and Benjamin never sees her again after the fact. That's a story that neither the mother nor the authorities were buying, but without the proper evidence to suggest otherwise, that's all they have to go on. And with little evidence to go on, the family would decide to turn to the media in hopes to gain new information.
Jeff, Jennifer, tonight, the Old Spaghetti Factory here in Hillsborough held a fundraiser for Allison. If you said that you were here to support the Watterson family, then the restaurant donated 20% of your check to fund the search for Allison. The Washington County Sheriff's Office told me today that they are working on this case every single day, and while detectives do their part, Allison's family is doing theirs.
If I'm not at work, we're searching for her.
For 32 days, there's been no trace of Misty Watterson's daughter, Allison. But each day, she's kept hope Allison will come home.
We'll do anything. We'll do everything and anything we can to find her.
Misty and her family have had an outpouring of support in the search for Allison. Last month, the Washington County Sheriff's Office suspended its 5-day search that covered 1,600 acres in the North Plains area. But Misty and her family and dozens of volunteers have kept searching.
The search and rescue at this point is right now combing through the entire area of North Plains, given the fact that that was where she was last seen.
Nearly 2 weeks ago, Crime Stoppers offered a $2,500 reward for information about Allison's disappearance that leads to an arrest and felony conviction. Now, the Watterson family is offering $5,000 to anyone with information that leads to finding Allison.
January of 2020 comes and goes, and then February, and then March, and then April, and then May. Time is steadily elapsing, but the whereabouts of Allison Watterson is still a mystery. And by mid-June of 2020, the mother would take to her social media to write a heartfelt post explaining exactly how she felt. She would write, The day she was taken out of my life will forever be the worst, darkest day any mother could experience. To whom is responsible for taking my daughter out of my life, I want you to know that you took my life, my breath, my soul. My everything has been ripped from me, and my life and those lives around me that love and adore this child will forever be dark until she comes home. And days after writing this post, the case would receive a turn of events. Saturday, June 20th, 2020. A woman who lived in North Plains would be simply out clearing the brush on her property when she would notice a shoe. After finding this shoe, she decides to keep clearing the brush and investigate further. But after she clears away enough, she would discover skeletal remains on her property, so she would immediately contact the authorities. Those remains would in fact be identified as 20-year-old Allison Watterson.
Well, Washington County investigators believe they have found the body of a 20-year-old woman missing since December. Elise Haas spoke with the deputies about the grim discovery this weekend.
This is terribly sad news for the Watterson family, though investigators say that they are at least thankful that they can bring some sort of closure to the family as well as to the search and rescue teams that have been looking for Allison for the past 6 months, ever since she went missing just days before Christmas. Over the weekend, Washington County Sheriff's deputies say that they were called out from a landowner on Corey Road who was clearing out thick brush and found human remains on Saturday. KOIN 6 has been following the story of the missing 20-year-old since she was last seen in the woods on December 22nd with her boyfriend near Old Pumpkin Ridge Road. Deputies say it was an area they had initially searched, but it was too dense to see any obvious signs that someone had entered the brush.
Due to the state that Allison Watterson was found in, the authorities were not able to determine a cause of death. What happened to Allison Watterson was nothing short of tragic. It's a very sad story. And in the end, the last person to see her alive, Benjamin Garland, holds the very key to finding out what happened to her. But in this moment of time, he's not talking. And without an official cause of death, no murder investigation can be pursued. People always say what's done in the dark will come to the light. Let's hope that that's the truth for this case, because it's still not solved. Rest in peace, Allison Watterson. Thank you for being a light for others.
It has been just over a year since 20-year-old Allison Watterson was reported missing in North Plains. Her remains were found in the unincorporated area of North Plains about 6 months later. But as Fox 12's Marilyn Deutsch reports, investigators still don't have answers in this disturbing case.
In this bowl is a handful of dirt taken from where Allison died. After going missing for 7 months, she was reduced to bones. So, we don't know how she died, how she got to where she died, or who was there. The person that knows is free, is now free to tell us anything and everything that could help ease the torture of the unknown. The last we knew, she was with you. You came home, and she was never seen again. If Allison was you, and you were her, she would be emboldened to tell what happened those last few hours. When she died, we thought we died too. It felt like we died. This is an open invitation to please tell us what you know. This is an open invitation to please tell us what you know.